What's up? My name is Eric Butler. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back, and from New York Magazine, should children vote, sit on juries, and serve in office? A law professor's radical case for rethinking American democracy. Well, if you have to ask, the answer is probably no, and I can't for the life of me understand why in the world these people would want children to vote. Is it maybe because they are not able to discern whether any of these wacky policy positions make sense at all? And why would they want to rethink American democracy? Because from where I'm sitting, these corrupt establishment hack shills have complete control of everything. And if you question even one of their talking points or one of their narratives, you will immediately be deemed a threat to democracy, amongst other things. If you don't want your tax dollars to go to Ukraine, threat to democracy. You question an election, threat to democracy. Don't want to wear a mask, threat to democracy. And the list goes on. But they say, when I reach Adam Benferrado on the phone, he's agonizing over whether his 9-year-old will make it through her sleepover without having to call home in the middle of the night. Well, that alone should be proof enough that no, 9-year-olds should not be voting. He immediately connects this feeling to our collective parenting mood 3 years post-school shutdown. Quote, we feel like we need to sort of maximize the welfare of our children and make up for this horrible thing that happened to them and all the isolation. Yeah, this horrible thing that happened to them that you guys weren't part of at all, right? These publications, these media publications, these politicians obviously destroyed the schools, right? These kids can't read, they can't speak, they weren't able to see people's mouths moving for 3 years because the air was so deadly. And now you want to pretend like, oh, well, this just happened to them. No, you guys were all part of this. And a lot of people did it on purpose. Some people were tricked and they were scared into submission, but this happened on purpose. Benferrado isn't just a beleaguered father, he's a legal scholar of children's rights. Okay. At Drexel University, and the author of a new book, A Minor Revolution. So this is just an ad for a book, apparently, that offers a bracing, encyclopedically researched, surprisingly hopeful take on how we could get ourselves a better country by enshrining children's rights in the law. All we'd have to do is change who gets to vote, how legal proceedings work, and how we interpret statutes and regulations all the way up to the Constitution. Yeah, well, I'm sure they would love nothing more than to change who gets to vote, right? I mean, they want to give illegals the right to vote. Now, of course, you can't say illegal anymore. You can't even say migrant. You can't even say immigrant. According to Eric Adams, they're just asylum seekers and they are here legally, which is completely untrue. But with everything, they change the definition of words. They manipulate the language until it has absolutely no meaning at all. Quixotic, I don't know what that word means. Maybe. But the prize would be a better society for everyone, he says, and a clearer focus on tackling issues like poverty, climate change, and the woeful state of education. Look at all those buzzwords there. Yeah, a better society for everyone. So saith this weird doctor, lawyer, whatever. And this is what happens every single time as well. If they say something, that just immediately makes it true. Just by the fact that they said it, it came out of their mouth, their brain, that makes it true, and you cannot question it. How on earth do you expect a child to solve the problem of poverty? They don't have a grasp on the economy at all. I don't even barely have a grasp on the economy. Climate change, of course, is just a boogeyman that they use to scare people into submission, like with all their other agendas, right? It's all different ways to the same goal of complete control. And the woeful state of education. Now, is he under the impression that kids are going to fix the education system that's supposed to be teaching them? That makes absolutely no sense at all. Of course, this is my beat since I published a book, The Stolen Year, about children in the pandemic. But lately, it really seems there's been a barrage of terrible news about kids. There's a shocking rebound of child labor, the 250,000 kids who are apparently missing from school buildings entirely, the teen mental health crisis, as well as the anemic response to getting children affected by the pandemic, and school closures, the learning help they actually need. How could child rights address all this? Look, again, these are all issues that you guys created. The teen mental health crisis, right? Like, you're the ones telling them that, well, if you're uncomfortable during puberty, then you're probably a different gender. Just, take this pill, right? I mean, you tell them that the air is deadly, the climate, the sun monster is here, and then you're confused as to why they're confused mentally. You're confused as to why they're confused. It's the blind leading the blind out there. It doesn't make any sense. The inmates are running the asylum, as they say. And if this guy thinks for one split second that allowing children to vote on things that they clearly don't understand is going to help anything, I mean, does this guy, I mean, is this real? Does he really believe this? Does he sit at home thinking that this makes sense, or is he just selling you a product that he knows won't work? Well, there are a lot of folks who work in the sphere of children's welfare who choose different ways to frame the pathway forward to prioritizing kids. I adopt a rights perspective because I think in America, rights are particularly persuasive, particularly powerful. We're probably most familiar with children's rights in an area like child labor, and you write about the, quote, child savers from a century ago. Why is this rollback happening now? Unfortunately, we haven't made the progress that seemed inevitable 100 years ago. The way we have continued to run our country turns a blind eye to the plight of the most vulnerable children in the interest of economic efficiency. Of course, that's like a dig at capitalism. Oh, people just want to make money so they don't care about the kids, right? Meanwhile, these are the same people who are forcing drag shows upon them and pretending that, well, if you're uncomfortable, just switch. I mean, every single thing they do is meant to confuse and control children, and they say, well, I don't know how it got like this. We might need to change something to fix it. Yeah, it's all your fault. But, that's what the snake oil salesman does, right? He creates the problem and then sells you the solution. And we see recent attempts to roll back some of these protections exactly in those terms. We have labor shortages because of the pandemic, so we need kids to work. No, you have labor shortages because you were giving away free money for 3 years and people don't want to work, right? And I haven't seen anywhere where anybody is saying that kids need to work. What are you talking about? There's a labor shortage because you were printing and giving away free money for far too long based on a scare tactic that you guys created. And that's because there is no free option when it comes to social problems. You either pay early on prevention or you pay late on rehabilitation. Yeah, okay, bro. There's always a boogeyman, and we all have problems, right? True. But these people don't think for 1 second that you can just let a kid grow up naturally with their parents without trying to drive a wedge between the parents and the kids and keeping, teachers hiding stuff from the parents. They never think that, that maybe this worked a few decades ago and you changed it all and now are confused as to why children are confused. I mean, give me a break. This is very galvanizing, and it kind of leads into my next question. In the case of protecting children from gun violence, which is spiking, it's easy to decide what a child's best interest is. But don't we also have this additional issue, which is how you determine what's in a child's best interest when they can't always participate in society or in civic engagement in the way adults can? That's why I'm a very strong advocate for lowering the voting age. Yeah, that's why. I'm sure that's why. It's not because they can be persuaded to vote on your weirdo agendas every single time because they're not thinking about it. They're not able to, right? That's why they don't do a lot of other stuff. That's why they don't drink beer. That's why they don't get tattoos. That's why they don't drive cars. That's why they don't rent apartments. The list goes on forever. But for some reason you think, well, yeah, they should be able to vote. Yeah, they should be able to change their gender. This is absolute insanity. Do you really want children to vote, though? How young are we talking? The standard pushback that I get on something like lowering the voting age is that kids just don't have the capacity. Duh. That's belied by the data. Okay, yeah. Oh, the data shows. We have from psychology and social science that when it comes to voting, relevant cognition, the average 16-year-old and the average adult are indistinguishable. Yeah, right. Give me a break. There are adults up to 25, 30 years old who aren't paying attention to this at all and do not have the capacity. But you want more people that you can easily manipulate. That's all this is about. Like I constantly say, every single thing is a different way to the same end goal of controlling everybody. You started out with a very arresting image, which is these horrible stories of these little children in immigration court and that sort of like travesty of rights. How concretely should we, in a developmentally appropriate way, involve children in things like legal proceedings? Envisioning change can be difficult. We likely need to rebuild structures from the ground up with children's interests in the forefront and get rid of some of the formalism. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Yeah, I see what he's not even really interviewing. They're having a little conversation. It's kind of like a podcast discussion written out here like an article. But of course, New York Magazine is constantly doing the bidding of the establishment. And we heard, a couple months ago, Nancy Pelosi saying that we need to lower the voting age, little monkey paw Pelosi, right? And obviously they want people who aren't going to question their narrative. That's why they love junkies. That's why they love illegal immigrants. That's why they're constantly manipulating people and constantly changing the language until it means absolutely nothing. So quite obviously, I think less people should be able to vote. if you want the honest truth, as soon as you turn 18, you're able to vote. And we all know, I've seen it firsthand, that these 18-year-old kids in college, they're not paying attention. They don't know the name of the governor. They don't know the name of the mayor of the town they live in. They don't know anything at 18. So there's no way that somebody 16 or lower, if they had it their way, should be voting. But naturally, their only goal is to gain absolute control of every single person's life, everything they do, the car they drive, the TV they watch, the news they read, everything. So thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe.